Greetings, class. This week we are going to continue with our personal assessments and also with an exploration of ourselves by investigating what is meant by the term intelligence. And more specifically, we're going to look at something called multiple intelligence. Now, to get us started today, let's go ahead and have a little bit of a quiz, a little bit of an intelligence quiz, because quizzes are, of course, a good way of measuring intelligence, right? So go ahead and get out a piece of scrap paper and a pen or a pencil. Do note that this is just for you. You're not needing to email me the answers or anything. This is just to kind of get our discussion started about what intelligence is. My only requirement for this quiz is that you actually take the time to answer the question. Please don't leave this blank, just skip through it, or don't answer it, don't say that it can't be done. Because the only way that you're showcasing to me, or more importantly to yourself, that you aren't intelligent is when you don't make the attempt. So just the attempt alone is showing, yes, indeed, that you are intelligent. Okay, question number 1. The question is, how do you get a giraffe into a refrigerator? How do you get a giraffe into a refrigerator? Question number 2, similar but different. How do you put an elephant into a refrigerator? How do you put an elephant into a refrigerator? Question number 3. The Lion King is hosting an animal conference. All the animals attend except one animal species. Which animal species does not attend? So I know a lot of times when people read that, they think of the Lion King movie. We're really referring to Lion, King of the Jungle, the alpha species, the top of the pyramid. So hosting this conference, which animal species doesn't go? And of course, kind of have a reason why that animal species does not attend. And question number 4, there is a river you must cross, but it is inhabited by crocodiles, meaning that crocodiles live in that river. So how do you manage it? How do you get across the river that have crocodiles in it? Okay, let's talk about the answers to these seemingly ridiculous questions. I do want to know what you actually wrote, what your classmates wrote. So if you would, when we go through the questions, go ahead and articulate your answer. Go ahead and say it out loud. So the first question, how do you put a giraffe into a refrigerator? State your answer. But a lot of students have, a variety of responses. And one of the first responses is they say, well, you get a gun, you shoot the giraffe, and then you get out your machete, you get out your knife, and you cut it up into little pieces. And then once those are into little pieces, you put it in the Ziploc storage seal bags where yellow and blue make green, and you put it in the refrigerator, right? So a cruel way to do it, but it takes care of the job, right? Other students might say, well, you know what? Before that rigor mortis sets in, go ahead and just bend those limbs, right? Fold it in, you get some duct tape out, and you just use that duct tape, go a little crazy with it. So those are definitely possible means. But I never said in the story that you had to put a real giraffe in a refrigerator. So some students say, well, I'll just take a picture of it. I'll print a picture off the internet, or I'll look it up on Google on my cell phone, and I'll put my cell phone in the refrigerator. Other students might say, well, I can just put a little toy, a little stuffed animal toy giraffe, or a magnet of a giraffe in a refrigerator. Other students might say, well, you didn't say it didn't have to be a real giraffe, but it could be a baby giraffe, right? That's be small enough maybe to get into the refrigerator. And then other students completely go out of the box and they say, well, we're looking at this from the angle of the giraffe, from the animal, but why don't we just have a bigger fridge? So I could have the biggest fridge, like a meat locker, and just throw the giraffe in there. I could take it to a really cold place on the planet like Antarctica and just throw it there, put it on an ice sheet, whatever, an iceberg, and that'll keep it nice and cold, which is a version of a refrigerator. So in reality, the correct answer, the textbook answer that I was looking for, is open the refrigerator, put in the giraffe, and close the door. And so in terms of a lesson, or the moral of the story, this question tests whether you tend to do simple things in an overly complicated way. So it was really kind of a simple thing. You just open the door, you put it in there. End of story. Okay, question number 2. Now it seems so easy, right? How do you put an elephant into a refrigerator? Again, a lot of students give very similar answers to before, like you cut it up, the Ziploc storage seal bag, the bending it, the folding it, the duct tape, the picture, the toy, the baby, the bigger fridge, the different fridge, right? But we have to keep in mind that, is there something that came before, right? Things are rarely in isolation. So technically, there is a wrong answer. And the wrong answer is that you open the refrigerator, you put in the elephant, and you close the door. The correct answer is you open the refrigerator, you take out the giraffe, you put in the elephant, and then you close the door, right? And so this lesson, the moral of the story, is it tests your ability to think through the repercussions of your actions. Again, all of this is part of problem solving and thinking intelligently. Okay, we're already on question number 3. The Lion King is hosting that conference. All the animals attend except one species. Which one did you put that does not attend? So state your answer, but historically in class, I hear students, they say, well, the ultimate enemy, of course, the hyena, that one doesn't show up. Other students sometimes say, well, the polar bear wouldn't be there, or the penguin wouldn't be there because they don't live in a savanna or in a jungle. They need a cold place. Other students might say, well, the fish or the whales or the sharks or the jellyfish, they need to live in water, so they're not going to be there. Another possible answer might be turtles or snails or slugs or sloths. Why? Because they're too slow, they can't make it there. Other students might say the koala, because the koala is sleeping all day and they miss their alarm and they never even show up for the party. And some students say a very practical answer, which is, like the zebra or the impala, the giraffe, the antelope, because that's the absolute favorite prey of the lion. So why would they go? Because they're going to be picked off first, right? So what is the correct answer? The correct answer is the elephants, because the elephant is in the refrigerator. And the moral of this story is it tests your memory, which is, again, another aspect of intelligence. Question number 4. There's a river you must cross, but it is inhabited by crocodiles. How do you get across that river without being eaten? What was your answer? So some students say, Tarzan and Jane, right? You use a vine and you swing across. Some people say, hey, in like cartoons and stuff, they're always using the crocodiles as stepping stones, so that's what I would do too. My answer was that when Steve Irwin was still alive, bless his soul, I would call him up, he'd do the crocodile maneuver, and while he's busy doing that, I would swim across the river. Some people talk a very practical thing to distract the crocodile. You throw raw meat in, you throw in your enemy from class, let it chomp down on them while you're swimming across. You could build a boat, you could build a bridge, find a boat, find a bridge. You could take a helicopter or a plane. Those are all possible logical answers, right? So the correct answer that I'm looking for is that you swim across, because of course all the crocodiles are attending the animal conference, so you don't have to worry about anything. And the moral of the story, the lesson of the story, is this test whether you learn quickly from your mistakes. Again, an aspect of intelligence. Okay, so we looked at what might seem like ridiculous questions and equally ridiculous answers. And of course, it's funny, but it's funny because it's also simple. And yes, the story is interconnected, it's not literal. But seriously, this exercise and everything we encounter every single day of our lives, it taps into our ability to solve problems. It taps into our intelligence. And intelligence is the theme of today. It's the theme of this week. It's what we're going to talk about. And at its core, intelligence means our ability to solve problems, problem solving. So if you really think about it, any of the answers that you provided or that I gave you, right, it proves to us that you are actually attempting to solve the problem, no matter how ridiculous the questions were or how outlandish your answers were. And in fact, all of the variety of responses given in my notes or by you or by your classmates, all of those responses reveal that we are an intelligent species because we are seeking to solve a problem. We're seeking to find results.